She loved Olumide more than anything, but she had allowed their relationship to take a backseat to her professional ambitions. Something had to change, or she would lose him forever. Mabel took a leave of absence from work and booked a flight back to Lagos. It was a decision that took her by surprise, but once she made it, she felt a sense of clarity that had eluded her for years. As much as she loved her job, she couldn't continue living her life without Olumide. She needed to figure out if their relationship could survive now that they were finally in the same place. When she landed in Lagos, Olumide was waiting for her at the airport. They embraced for what felt like hours, neither of them speaking, just holding on to each other as though afraid to let go. There was a quiet understanding between them that this moment would determine the future of their relationship. Over the next few days, they spent time talking about everything they had been through. They revisited the highs and lows of their relationship, each moment now seen through the lens of time and distance. They talked about the things they had never fully expressed while they were apart. Mabel admitted how lost she had felt in New York at times, overwhelmed by the pressure to succeed. She confessed that while she loved her career, she had often felt guilty about the toll it took on their relationship. She hadn't wanted to let Olumide down, but in doing so, she had let their connection slip. Olumide, for his part, opened up about how the distance had made him feel neglected. He told Mabel about the countless times he had wished she was by his side, at family events, during stressful days at work, or just during quiet moments when he wanted to share his thoughts with her. He explained how difficult it had been to see her building a life in New York while he was stuck in Lagos, unable to be a part of it. It wasn't just about the missed calls or forgotten anniversaries, it was the feeling of being left behind. But as they talked, they also realized that their love had never truly disappeared. The foundation they had built in those early years in Lagos was still there, albeit buried beneath the frustrations of their separation. They just needed to rediscover it to find a way to rebuild trust and intimacy now that they were physically together again. It wasn't easy. There were moments of tension, moments when old wounds resurfaced, and they fell into familiar arguments. Mabel struggled with the idea of compromising her career ambitions, and Olumide wrestled with the resentment he had harbored during their time apart. But through it all, they remained committed to each other, knowing that the road to healing would be long but worth it. One evening, about 2 weeks after Mabel's arrival, they decided to take a trip to Badagry, a coastal town just outside Lagos. It was a place they had always wanted to visit when they were first dating, but life had gotten in the way, and the trip never happened. Now, with no distractions or work obligations, it felt like the perfect time to reconnect. The drive to Badagry was quiet, but not in a tense way. There was a peacefulness between them, a mutual understanding that they didn't need to fill the silence with words. As they neared the town, the scenery changed from the bustling chaos of Lagos to something calmer. Palm trees swayed gently in the breeze, and the ocean stretched out before them like an endless horizon. When they arrived at the beach, they walked along the shoreline, hand in hand, letting the cool sand sink beneath their feet. The sun was beginning to set, casting a golden glow across the water, and for the first time in a long while, Mabel and Olumide felt a sense of peace. It wasn't just the beauty of the place, it was the feeling of being truly present with each other, without the weight of time zones and missed opportunities hanging over them. As they sat by the water, watching the waves roll in, Olumide turned to Mabel and asked, "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you hadn't taken the job in New York?" Mabel smiled softly, staring out at the horizon. "I do," she admitted. "Sometimes I think about how different things could have been if I had stayed. But then I remind myself that we can't change the past. All we can do is move forward." Olumide nodded, thinking about her words. "And moving forward, what does that look like for us?" Mabel looked at him, her expression thoughtful. "I think it means finding a balance. We both have dreams, And I don't want either of us to feel like we have to sacrifice them. But I also don't want to lose you again, Olumide. I want us to build a life together, one that works for both of us. For the first time in a long while, Olumide felt a sense of hope. I want that too, he said quietly. But we need to be honest with each other. We can't let things fester like we did before. Mabel nodded in agreement. No more letting distance, or anything else, come between us. We'll figure it out together. In the weeks that followed, Mabel and Olumide began to rebuild their relationship brick by brick. It wasn't a sudden transformation, but a slow, steady process of learning how to be a couple again. They spent more time together, not just on dates or romantic getaways, but in the everyday moments, cooking meals, running errands, even just sitting together in silence, enjoying each other's company. Mabel found a job in Lagos, working as a communications consultant for a global NGO. It wasn't the same as her high-powered role in New York, but she didn't mind. The work was meaningful, and more importantly, it allowed her to stay in Lagos, to be with Olumide without sacrificing her professional identity. Olumide, meanwhile, threw himself into his engineering consultancy, which had grown considerably over the past year. He loved the work, but more than that, he loved that he now had Mabel by his side, cheering him on. They still had their challenges. There were times when Mabel missed the fast-paced life of New York and times when Olumide struggled with balancing his responsibilities at work with his commitment to their relationship. But they faced these challenges together, knowing that they had already survived the hardest test of all, 4 years of long-distance separation. One evening, as they sat on their balcony, watching the Lagos skyline light up, Olumide turned to Mabel and said, "I never thought we'd get here." Mabel smiled, leaning her head on his shoulder. "Neither did I. But I'm glad we did." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, listening to the distant hum of the city below them. The future, once filled with uncertainty, now felt like something they could shape together. There would be no more missed calls, no more lonely nights, no more wondering if they were drifting apart. They had weathered the storm of long distance, and now, they were stronger for it. As the months passed, Mabel and Olumide settled into their new rhythm. They traveled together, exploring parts of Nigeria they had always wanted to visit but had never had the chance to. They attended family events, celebrated birthdays, and marked anniversaries, this time in person, with no screen between them. They learned to appreciate the small, everyday moments that had been missing during their years apart. But they also continued to nurture their individual dreams. Mabel took on new projects with the NGO, helping to build their presence across West Africa, while Olumide expanded his consultancy, taking on more clients and hiring a team of young engineers. They supported each other's ambitions, knowing that their love didn't have to come at the expense of their personal growth. Their relationship wasn't perfect, but it was real. It was built on a foundation of trust, communication, and a shared commitment to making things work. They had faced the hardest challenge any couple could endure, years of separation, and had come out stronger on the other side. One day, while they were walking through a park in Lagos, Mabel turned to Olumide and said, "Remember when you asked me if I ever wondered what would have happened if I hadn't taken that job in New York?" Olumide smiled. "Yes. But why?" "I think I know the answer now," Mabel said, squeezing his hand. "If I hadn't gone, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't have learned what it really takes to make a relationship work." Olumide nodded, understanding what she meant. "You're right. It wasn't easy, but I wouldn't trade it for anything." As they continued walking, hand in hand, they knew that whatever the future held, they would face it together. The distance, once an insurmountable obstacle, had taught them that love wasn't about being in the same place all the time, it was about choosing each other, day after day, no matter where life took them. And now, they were ready to build the life they had always dreamed of, no longer separated by time zones or miles, but standing side by side, ready to face the world together.